So I was reading a study conducted by Johns Hopkins University, and it was a 25-year study, and it chronicled 790 kids from Baltimore. And what they found was, among the low-income kids, 4% graduated college. The upper-income kids, 45% graduated college. Humongous disparity. So that hit close to home for me because I happen to be from inner city Baltimore. And I attended 11 different schools in 12 years. And it reminded me back then when my mom made 3 key decisions that really gave me a little push when I needed it. And the first decision was when she put me in a private school in 3rd grade. Then she put me in a private school in 8th grade. Then she put me in a private school in 9th grade. Only 3 Catholic school experiences. At the end of each year, I couldn't go back. Why couldn't I go back? You don't have money. Your mom didn't pay. You can't come back. But a seed was planted every time I went there. I got to socialize with middle class and upper class kids. And that was huge. I got included. If somebody went on a boat trip, I got included. Beach homes, I got included. Nice restaurants, I got included. I got to see people who actually spoke proper grammar and enunciated. I started enunciating. They dressed nice. I started dressing a little nicer. People who had college aspirations, and I just naturally assumed that I'm going to college. It was a natural assumption. And so my mom planted just enough of a seed. And so fast forward to a couple decades later, I graduated from the University of Maryland with a philosophy degree, worked in newsroom for 10 years. Then I found myself in Las Vegas, which to me, the best thing about being in Vegas, other than my son, is this is the fight town. This is a fight town. And there's no better place, there's never been a better place to watch a fight. An Ultimate Fighting Championship event, a boxing event. And so I had the privilege of training with hundreds, I shouldn't say hundreds, there's hundreds of elite fighters here. I trained with a lot of them. And people don't know there's a Spartan underworld here with those fighters, that people that value deprivation, sacrifice, suffering. And so after a long journey in Jiu Jitsu, about 10 years, in June 2010, I received my black belt from Robert Drysdale. I was one of about less than 3,000 black belts in the world at the time, Jiu Jitsu black belts. So that's a decimal of the population. When you look at the martial arts, the hardest black belt to get is the Jiu Jitsu black belt, by far. Other black belts, you might be looking at 18 months, you're looking at 3 years, you're looking at 5 years. Jiu-Jitsu, you're looking at 10 to 13 years. And so when you talk to top instructors, as I have, you ask them, hey, how many people stick around? How many people make it there? Say, maybe 1 in 250 who come in and train. 1 in 250. Somebody else, no, it's closer to 1 in 300. Somebody else, no, I got 1 in 400, closer to that. That's a huge number. Now, the question is, what's driving these people away, obviously? It's a grueling road. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say it's an easy road. It's part of the reason people run to it. It's a hard road. So for me, there was a heavy toll. One of the tolls was emotional. One day I came home, and a woman that I loved confronted me and said matter-of-factly, you had a choice between your marriage and jiu-jitsu, and you chose jiu-jitsu. Now go be alone with your jiu-jitsu. I'll never forget that. The toll as well is physical. I have a titanium plate in my neck, which you might be able to see. I had my shoulder dislocated, not like actually dislocated like this, 9 times. Popped my arm out here. I've been stitched here. I've had a broken nose, 5 surgeries. When I was in the newsroom, if you had a defining image, it was me typing away on deadline with a humongous ice pack on my neck. Okay? So even though the irony is that in Japanese translated it means gentle art. Jiu-jitsu means gentle art. That's the irony. Isn't that great? So you look at it, there's several million jiu-jitsu practitioners. You have celebrities like Ashton Kutcher and Joe Rogan, Ashton Kutcher's a purple belt, Joe Rogan's a black belt, Guy Ritchie is a black belt, and you've got somebody, I don't know if you saw the news last year, there was an incident in France with a train. A gunman gets on there with AK-47, rounds of ammunition, opens fire, 4 Americans take him down. One of those Americans, the key American who tackles him, is in the U.S. Air Force, tackles him, chokes him out, goes before the media and says, jiu-jitsu saved my life. Probably saved other lives, right? So that's the power of this sport here. And you have a guy like, Anthony Bourdain. I'm sorry, there's Spencer Stone. you have Anthony Bourdain, CNN's Anthony Bourdain, right? The foodie, the world famous foodie. 59 years old, gets a blue belt in Jiu Jitsu, low on the totem pole. What's he say? Second greatest day of my life. Second greatest day. Behind number one, birth of his daughter. Okay? So here to demonstrate this highly addictive art, we have high school freshman Annalyn Molina and UFC world champion Miesha Tate. So jiu-jitsu is this, it's a game of entanglement. It's like speed chess, and it's yoga, and it's wrestling, and it's Zen, and it's Cirque du Soleil all in one. That's what it is, right? So I used to think of this as Oprah for men. I used to think of jiu-jitsu like that. Everything Oprah and her friends are sitting on couches, self-help books, and Dr. Phil, and self-empowerment. That's the same stuff we're after. Same destination, different path, right? But I can't call it that now anymore. Because, by the way, I used to think chicken soup for the soul, chokehold for the soul, right? I can't call this Oprah for Men anymore because of people like Miesha Tate going out there. This is the golden age of girl power globally. We've got women assuming leadership positions the world over like never before, right? So because of that golden age of girl power, it's a total redefining of the art here. You see here. So someone like Miesha Tate. Miesha Tate is a UFC champion. She just won. I don't know if some of you saw, she had a fight here recently against Holly Holm, who was unbeaten, who had defeated Ronda Rousey. Miesha's trailing 3-1 going into that final round. She's less than 2 minutes. She's going to go home. The dream's done. She's thinking, her inner dialogue is, listen, I got to risk everything. If I get knocked out here, I get knocked out. I'm going. And this is the sequence. This is the final sequence that evolved. She's trailing there, boom. I'm watching at home. I'm like, whoa. I mean, this just the tide just turned. Tide turned, sinks it in just like a gorilla. Bam. And that's it. And there's the moment there you can see. She stuns. I mean, she had 2 cracks at the title before, came up short, third time's a charm. Now, I ask you, what is that moment worth? What's that moment worth there, that forever moment? What's that worth? You can't put a price tag on that. And that leads me into, I think of jiu-jitsu, I almost think of Andy Dufresne in Shawshank Redemption, where he's 20 years tenaciously, he's just chipping away at that wall, right? He's just chipping. And that's what I think of jiu-jitsu. I just think you're just chipping. It's a long grind. People want quick fixes. It doesn't exist. Nothing where you have that moment, it doesn't exist. So you look at, say, the origin of jiu-jitsu. Nobody knows precisely, but you're talking, this goes back to the ancient Greeks and Alexander the Great, the Buddhist monks in India, the samurai in Japan who sat on it for centuries and kept it secret. It was so powerful, it kept it secret. Now the secret's out. You got a booming jiu-jitsu renaissance now. And so the question is now, what are we going to do? We have the haves and have-nots once again. You have a United Arab Emirates where you can train jiu-jitsu for free. 30,000 kids, the government pays for it. You have some spots in Brazil, in the favelas, where those kids are so poor, and they let them train for free. But in America, you're looking at easily 100 a month, 150 a month. You could be looking at 300 a month for jiu-jitsu. It's expensive. It's getting like hockey or something like that, tennis, golf. It's cost prohibitive for the kids that could benefit from the most. So what's the solution? What I think the vision that I'd like to see is we take those instructors, jiu-jitsu instructors, agree to take in 5 kids each year, minimum 5 kids each year. You take in 5 of them. And every year you add at least 5 more. And so you're looking at over the course of 10 years, you're looking at, you could be easily, conservatively, 250,000 lives impacted, assuming those kids stick with it. If they don't stick with it, you replace them, you bring in new kids. You're looking at maybe north of 500,000 lives impacted. That's how much we talk about jiu-jitsu for a better world. That's a catchphrase we believe in that. We believe, we work on the immaterial. We don't pretend, I'm not going to get up here and tell you about material wealth. I'll tell you about immaterial. I'll tell you about going through a fire to get something. I can tell you about that. So you have all these kids. Frederick Douglass had one of my favorite quotes. Said, it's better to build strong children than repair broken men. And there's a Willie Nelson lyric that I love too, similarly. It to give us your tired and weak, and we will make them strong. And I think that's what I think of the power of Jiu Jitsu. And so what I'm thinking is, we do this, we reach out, we start a movement where we agree to take in these kids that can't afford it, like I couldn't afford it. We let them, we build them up. And the thing is, if we who deal in the immaterial, we who soul sculpt for a living, if we're not going to say, be the ones to say, hey, you know, helping you is its own reward. We should know that as well as anybody. Helping you is its own reward. We should know that. So to me, I know that. Believe me, I know that. So thank you guys very much. Thank you. I'm done.